right? Now, I don't know if it's by word or not, but excuse me, I bet it is. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So you see a lot of people now when somebody passes, they are not doing 4 visitations. They are not doing the brunch after. They are doing a simple celebration of life, or they're doing a visitation right before the funeral. A small service. Sometimes there's no service. Depending on the activities of the person who's passed, sometimes they just have a very small service, or they cremate them ahead of time, and then they'll turn around and they'll go to their favorite pub or restaurant or whatever and have a celebration there. Or, we had a young kid here in town that passed recently, a kid that actually my kids grew up with. And what they did is they cremated him, and they didn't have a service, but he liked to go out to the open jams in town. So what he would do is he would go out on whatever night and had his guitar on his back, and he'd go and he'd get involved in play. So that was his community. That was his other family. We have 2 families, right? You have your family that you're related to, and then you have the other ones that you picked yourself. Because, you know what they say, you can pick your nose and you can pick your butt, but you can't pick your family. So, that what they did is the place that he went to the most for his open jams, they had a nice little celebration of life for him. And that probably was the most, the best way to celebrate him, and I didn't end up going. I don't know, I was traveling around speaking somewhere, doing something. But I really wanted to, because I believe that life and death is like different forms of water. There's a solid form, there's a liquid form, there's air form, whatever. So I believe they're still with us, and that's my personal belief. So I didn't end up going to that, but I did a nice little write-up on his Facebook page for me, not for anybody else. Although I know he was really close to his grandpa, and his grandpa would have enjoyed it. So I just did a nice little write-up of, sorry dude, I missed your last gig. And, I'm sure it was good, and I'm sure, you're jamming with Elvis, and although, we know Elvis really lives in Collingwood, Ontario, right? But, for those that believe Elvis has passed, I'm totally kidding. So in my thing, that he's now playing with, Jim Morrison and Elvis and whatever. So times are changing. It's different how we look at life, and it's different how we look at things, and how we realize that, it's okay to grieve differently. It's okay to say, I don't want anything. When I pass, I don't want anything. I would actually really like somebody to do a charity event for somebody else in my name. That would thrill me. And have fun and games, and yeah, that would be awesome. That would be so awesome. And then, I don't know, plant a tree. Have you seen those things where you put the ashes in the tree, where you start the tree growing? I'm not explaining that properly. And then the tree roots all become one with you. That is right up my alley. I think that's really super cool. And the other thing that's really super cool, besides you, because you're awesome, and me, because I'm awesome too, we collectively are an abundance of awesomeness. So for those tuning in, bear with my voice, by the way. I've been speaking a lot in the last few days, so it's wearing on my voice, but not wearing on my mind. So, time for the good news. Lots of cool stuff going on. Now, this first story, really exciting. For the first time, physicists have discovered a way to levitate large objects, as in human-sized objects. Are you getting that? Isn't that wild? With an acoustic tractor beam. Acoustic tractor beams work by using sonic power to capture particles and suspend them in midair, according to a press release from the University of Bristol. This gives them an edge over devices that use magnetic levitation, which can struggle to grab small or otherwise tricky objects like liquids. But once they've been able to capture small objects, according to CNET, never anything larger than the wavelength of the sound. Haha. Researchers from the University of Bristol became the first to overcome that size limitation, paving the way for levitating humans. That's interesting. I don't know if I'd want to be that human. I shared that clip about failure and practicing. I don't know. They created a system of rapidly fluctuating acoustic vortices, basically tiny sound tornadoes, with a twister of loud sound surrounding an inner and completely silent core, according to the press release. A paper describing the research was published in the journal Physical Letters Review. In the future, with more acoustic power, it will be possible to hold even larger objects. Mihal Khalip, the senior research associate who developed the simulations, said in a press release. This was only thought to be possible using lower pitches, making the experiment audible and dangerous for humans. Think about something like rowing a canoe. If you paddle on just one side, you'll go in circles. But if you paddle quickly and evenly on both sides, you'll go straight, since the opposing forces balance out each other. When the sound field rotates in any direction, some of its spin carries over to affect the motion of the levitating object inside it, making such an object orbit faster and faster until it becomes out of control and the experiment fails. But by switching the direction of the spin back and forth at high speeds, balancing it through opposing forces, the researchers found the sound tornado could hold an object stable. This let them make the tornado's silent core even bigger, ultimately trapping a sphere just under an inch across. It's the largest object ever stabilized by a tractor beam. The sphere is obviously a lot smaller than a human, but what it proved for the first time is that it's physically possible for a tractor beam to hold objects larger than the wavelengths themselves, according to the Huffington Post. Acoustic researchers have been frustrated by the size limit for years, so it's satisfying to find a way to overcome it. Lead author Azier Marzo, a researcher from the University of Bristol's Department of Mechanical Engineering, said in the press release. I think it opens the door to many new applications. The practical applications the researchers believe their work will facilitate include contactless production lines, wherein extremely fragile objects can be manufactured without ever needing to touch them. It also could improve the risk factors for dicey surgical operations where microscopic devices need to be implanted into the patient's body. That's interesting as well. A different group of researchers recently created a way to build real-life, are you ready for this? Cloaking technology. Whoa. Fingers crossed that the next Star Trek predicted breakthrough has to do with reversing global warming. Well, I don't know about that, but as I'm reading this, the thing that keeps coming to my mind is the pyramids. There's a lot of things that we don't know, and one of which is how they built those pyramids. And, I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of stuff, but there's theories that we are not the most advanced culture on this planet over time, that there's been other cultures that have exceeded us in technology, but they've crashed. And so here we are today trying to recreate different things and figure out how they did different things. So just food for thought. Is that how they do the pyramids? I don't know. Next one, this is interesting. So we all know that there's issues with Big Pharma, and there's issues with the drug companies and what people are getting. And look at Tom Petty. Did you hear about that? That they just found out all the stuff he was on, all the medicine, and he had all these health issues, and he did 52 shows with a fractured hip. Wow, that's intense. So, frustrated by constant price gouging and supply shortages, some of the nation's largest hospital systems are banding together to create their own nonprofit drug company. The collaboration, which currently includes about 300 different hospitals, as well as the Department of Veteran Affairs, will be dedicated towards creating generic versions of medications that have undergone major price increases in recent years. Dr. Mark Harrison of Intermountain Healthcare, the nonprofit hospital group that is currently spearheading the effort, told the New York Times, "This is a shot across the bow of the bad guys. We are not going to lay down. We are going to go ahead and try and fix it." Intermountain Healthcare said in a statement on Wednesday, the new company intends to be an FDA-approved manufacturer and will either directly manufacture generic drugs or subcontract manufacturing to reputable contract manufacturing organizations, providing patients an affordable alternative to products from generic drug companies whose capricious and unfair pricing practices are damaging the generic drug market and hurting consumers. The company will also seek to stabilize the supply of essential generic medications administered in hospitals, many of which have fallen into chronic shortage, they added. We are very lucky here in Canada. This is applicable to the States. Here we have free healthcare. It's not fast healthcare, but it's free healthcare. So, when I was 18 and I got pregnant, I could have my baby in the hospital and not have to worry about having it in my room or in the alley or not being able to afford it at all or getting some sort of health care. The other thing that is here in Canada, which is new, is all prescriptions. Our prescriptions are cheaper, is my understanding, than in the States because a lot of Americans come over here and get their prescriptions filled. I totally get it. But here we've just passed a new law, if you don't know and you are Canadian, that anybody under 25 gets free prescriptions. Awesome. You hate to see a child go without their medicine because their parents can't afford it. So that's a new thing here in Canada. Two new things, actually, sort of a different note. Under 25, you get free prescriptions. Over 25, you could get free college. I don't know what the details are on that, though. I bet there's some sort of pre-qualifiers, but there you go. So there's something to that. So that's a neat story. Shout out to Keanu Reeves. He did, for 15 years, he's been the one playing on a blockbuster charity role for kids with cancer following his sister's diagnosis of leukemia. Wanting to remain anonymously, he reportedly has never attached his name to the nonprofit foundation that he set up to fund cancer research and care for children in hospitals. The 50-year-old Canadian actor also donates to the Spinal Cord Opportunities for Rehabilitation Endowment, also known as SCORE, a charity that supports hockey players with spinal injuries. Wow, very cool. And then my last story today is pretty neat. We love our animal stories. This is how advanced we are. Tiny ping pong ball-sized eggs may look unassuming, but they're being used to crack down on poachers in North and Central America. We're talking about sea turtle eggs. They're considered to be an aphrodisiac. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. And a delicacy. And they can sell from anywhere between $5 to $20 a pop on the black market. Oh my goodness. That's why conservation group Paso Pacifico is planting 3D printed decoy eggs in sea turtle nests that have a high risk of being poached. Ah man, good ideas. The decoys are deployed during the sea turtle nesting season in the fall. Since they're disguised to look like regular eggs, poachers will steal the decoys along with the originals. The decoy eggs contain GPS trackers that can then show conservationists where poachers are transporting the eggs. Wow, if several trackers are shown to end up in the same area, it could indicate the location of a big trader. This is brilliant, really, isn't it? According to the Washington Post, Kim Williams-Gullin, Director of Conservation Science at Paso Pacifico, said, "We want to sneak them into nests that are most vulnerable to poaching. It would be really easy for them to grab one of those eggs and not even notice it. We're not planning on collecting data in real time unless that's something that they need to express real interest in. It's certainly a possibility." Isn't that something? And here's the thing that makes it sort of funny, because it's twofold. So I just told this story. So say you tell 10 friends and they tell 10 friends, like that old shampoo commercial, right? So everybody tells everybody. Everybody shares the story. So the poachers hear it. They know that it's happening. but maybe it's not really happening. Maybe this is fake news, but they think it's true, so they stop doing it. Hey, winner, winner, chicken dinner. So there you go. That is your good news for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll do it again on Thursday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Good news. We need good news. We need to stick together. We need to, share the good news instead of sharing the drama and sharing all the bad stuff and all that other things, right? All the other things that are going on.